Previously on Expedition New England.
Thanks to the help of Expedition New England friend Heather Britton Smarowski, Scott gets the call for a rare chance to document the death of a most mysterious whale, the Cuvier's beaked whale. This is what has begun to happen with Expedition New England. 1 minute we are documenting amphibian breeding migrations, and the next thing you know, Scott's headed out to sea with a team of world-renowned scientists charged with the virtual magic act of performing a necropsy on a beach. The goals are simple but complicated. Carefully carve out and remove the entire skeleton on a whale that washed ashore last week and look for clues as to why it died. With the team from Coastal Environmental Services at the helm, tensions are a bit high, since in order to get to the whale carcass you need to traverse a 6-mile span round trip across the frigid waters of Fisher Island Sound, where any mishap could lead to certain death of the scientists and crew.
As we unload the boat on Fisher's Island, I catch a minute with Dr. Tom French.
Ask if you can.
Well, beaked whales are really fascinating. They're so unknown. They're usually far offshore. They're deep water whales. They dive very, very deep for squid. They have essentially no teeth. The males often have a pair of teeth. There's variation in how many teeth they have, but usually the female doesn't have a single tooth erupted from the gums. Xiphias, the genus of Cuvier's beaked whale, is probably our most common, but it's more common farther south. So to have one up in the northern waters is rare, and they just don't get seen. And so anytime one washes ashore, it's a big event. Last 30 years, I've been involved in over 70 large whale mortalities on the beach, baleen whales and sperm whales, and probably a few hundred small, dolphins and seals. I've never seen a beaked whale before.
Over here,
Hey,
yeah.
Scott.
Fantastic,
It's nice
Lisa.
to meet you.
What a pleasure, what a pleasure, Fred, a pleasure. Tell me, what are you doing here today?
Well, I'm excited to pick up the crew and go out and harvest the whale.
Fantastic.
It's going to be fantastic.
Awesome.
I'm so excited.
Sure is.
The other thing we're going to do, besides just collecting the whole skeleton, is open the stomach. Beaked whales are typically squid eaters, and squid have beaks that are like fingernail material, chitinous material, that holds up really well and stays in the stomach for a long time. So it'll be interesting to see what's in the stomach of the whale.
So excited.
I'm Keith. Nice to meet you.
Very nice. Tom, very good to meet you.
Hi.
At this stage of the game, we're just waiting. As I speak to these individuals that have experience and that have been doing this for much of their lives, I realize I'm surrounded by amazing people that are truly dedicated to teaching and collecting data about these whales. The big mystery is, why would a beaked whale like the Cuvier's beaked whale have beached, died, deceased right here in a place we almost never see them? Is this a canary in the coal mine? Is this a sign of something much more devastating to come? We hope to find out. Stick with us. Expedition New England.
according to Woods Hole, because there isn't a whole lot of information about it. I found that species of whales, their vestigial pelvic bone is pretty unique. In other words, if you show me a vestigial pelvic bone, I can come pretty close to guessing what the species is. They're also sexually dimorphic, so the female pelvic bone is different than the male, which is, expected. I mean, it's different in all mammals, from humans on down.
Let's try to get you up to speed on all this talk about vestigial pelvic bones. The first thing you've got to understand is that whales evolved from land animals that walked on 4 legs. Hence, they once had a developed functional pelvis. What Dave Taylor is so excited about is that each species of whale today, hundreds of millions of years later, still obtain pelvic bones they no longer use. And it's a valuable tool to their identification. This is what he is after.
Your blood starts pumping when you really begin to get excited at this point. You're constantly dreaming about an opportunity like this, and then all of a sudden you're here and the adrenaline starts to pump. Just maybe 25 yards away from the carcass.
One of them broke off.
Isn't that a tooth right there?
The broken one?
Well,
the bottom one is complete.
You just see no teeth or anything. You just start.
Oh, it's going to come loose too. It looks like.
We'll just see if it works. If it doesn't, we'll take it apart here. And it's just worn down.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is a male, I think. There's a sexual dimorphism in tooth on beaked whales in general. But they get 23 feet, so they get bigger than this.
They paced off 18.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's probably an adult, likely a male. We'll find out what sex it is when we get.
Yeah, exactly.
Do that.
Seagulls
Exactly.
They
Now
love
see
that.
these though? These lines, again, suggest to me it's a male because these are the tooth marks of another one.
As we begin to perform the necropsy, I've got to warn you, this isn't going to be pretty.
Exactly what it is.
Look at that.
They're Skip. Hey, Skip. Check out these parasites.
Oh,
What do we got here?
that is an excellent question. Not as good with the parasites.
Yeah, I forget what it is. This is what you find in dolphin blubber as well.
And these are the ones that they're pretty benign with the cetaceans, but a shark or somebody else who preys on it
I don't
might
know
have a
about
little
that,
more
but I
trouble.
don't think it hurts us.
I mean,
Just open it right up.
one of the things you'll notice when you do seal rehab is any of the seals that come in that haven't been dependent on mom when they were rescued, they almost all have ringworm or a tapeworm. And it's part of life for them. It's not a symbiosis, but it's not super detrimental to them. We will do whatever we can to deworm them before they're released. It's going to help them out in rehab. It's going to help them out in life. But we do so with the understanding that next week they probably have it.
Even though it is said that these parasites are benign, I can't help but believe that all of these foreign bodies are stressing these animals out.
You're almost always going to find a parasite of some kind, but this is an interesting one.
Very much, yeah.
Up a little bit.
So at this stage of the game, we are attempting to strip off a layer of the blubber as much as we possibly can. If there is more muscle beneath it, we've got to do another strip to get down to the skeleton.
Oof, wrong side of the wind.
Yeah,
You're downwind at this moment.
The main reasons we're here is so Dr. French can extract a complete skeleton of the Cuvier's beaked whale. So as you can imagine, every cut of the knife is critical. And equally as concerning is one false move with this excavator and you will tear or break one of the bones, and it's a wasted effort.
Nobody's going to want to watch this stuff. It's a team of two. You're making a film, and the average person's going to say, I'm going to throw up.
Beneath the 2-inch thick layer of blubber is the dark red matter that is actually muscle tissue. Keep in mind, this is an air breather. It's a cetacean. Without extremely efficient ways to absorb and maintain oxygen, it would never be able to stay down so long. And it is critical that we strip these layers off without any bones attached.
How's it going so far, Tom? Are you?
Well, we're hardly started yet, so it's, we got a lot more cutting to do. We're just getting the hang of it.
Well, you need to flip the carcass and get underneath it?
Eventually.
Okay.
Well, actually, maybe not. It depends on if we can clear the muscle and tissue on this side. We might be able to cut under.
The odor from the carcass is unbearable. It's just horrible. The animal could have died about a month ago, floated at sea for a couple of weeks, and then finally came ashore here at Fisher's Island. So, again, all of the processes, all of the metabolic processes that occur within a dead and dying animal were all trapped inside it. Now they're getting released.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, March 1st, 2015. I think I must be out of my mind. Once again, race has inspired me into another mission for Expedition New England. This time we're heading north to Rhode Island to investigate rumors that the Atlantic cod is all but fished out. Hooked up with the charter company called the Island Current. And based on my reports, if anybody can find the cod, it's them. Within moments, you're cast into a giant mix of different cultures and personalities on a party boat, some of which do not match up very well with an 8-year-old. Dating back to the 1600s, the Atlantic cod has been an extremely important species, feeding the economy from Nova Scotia to Maine and across the Atlantic into Eastern Europe as well. But eventually inventions like giant trawlers and super efficient factory ships harvested these cod at rates far greater than they could reproduce. And couple that with a silent explosion of human population with a hunger for fish, and we just about wiped them out. Hold that thought. We'll be back to the cod fishing. For now, we've got to finish up with what we started on the Cuvier's beaked whale.
This is the goose beak. It's part of the respiratory system. So in cetaceans, they can't breathe through their mouth. It goes through the blowhole. So anything that goes down their mouth goes into their stomach. And this is kind of the adaptation that allowed that to happen. So with us, we have the pharynx. Everything kind of mixes back in the pharynx. And this, the esophagus kind of goes around it. And then the air would kind of direct up through it. So this can be kind of like a voice box. But the other way they direct the pitch of their voice and things of that nature is actually through the blowhole itself. So by squeezing together the blowhole, they can change the pitch of any vocalizations they're making. But it's probably one of the coolest parts of cetacean anatomy. And this is just a phenomenal adaptation. I mean, when they're developing, their nose functions. They have a nose at the end of their face, and then as the embryo develops, the blowhole kind of takes over and the nose kind of migrates up and forms the blowhole. So at early stages in their development, when they're just a small embryo, they have a nose, and it just becomes a blowhole as they develop in the fetus.
Thank you. Other angle. Yep.
So look, we're not trying to gross you out here. The dark red pigmentation that you're seeing is actually called myoglobin. You've probably heard of hemoglobin. Well, myoglobin is an oxygen-rich tissue found in mammals like this Cuvier's beaked whale that enables them to retain the oxygen for long periods of time so they can hold their breath and dive deep.
Right there, feel it. This thing could.
As you have already figured out, Cuvier's beak whale is just one in a family of 22 species of other beaked whales. But Cuvier's has the distinction of holding 2 world records, one for the deepest dive known for all mammals on the planet. We're talking about 2 miles deep. And the second world record, it's been recorded having the ability to hold its breath for 137 minutes. That's over 2 hours on one breath. These guys are pelagic. I mean, they love the deep and seldom ever come close to the coastline. This is another reason why we're here, Fisher's Island, New York. We've got a lot to learn about these guys. Expedition New England, stick with us. For those of you just joining us, I promise there's a really good reason why we're knee-deep in whale guts. And it's not just to gross you out. I am documenting the necropsy led by Dr. Tom French from Mass Wildlife, whose main objective is to collect the complete skeleton of this Cuvier's beak whale. And if all goes well, Dave Taylor will locate the vestigial pelvic bones of this ancient creature, supporting evidence that whales once walked on Earth some 40 million years ago.
The whale has gotten itself buried in the sand a bit, and so rather than fighting, trying to dig down deeper and deeper into the soil, we're dragging it out of the hole. We've cleaned off the top half of it, and then we're going to flip it over and clean off the other half and start taking it up into pieces.
What's always very frustrating is that you may never know why this animal died. But one great place to look is inside the stomach. And finally, we get that chance.
It was empty.
Stomach was empty. There's some focal discolorations.
Okay.
But this is where you'd expect to find squid beaks and things like that if he had just recently eaten. But no sign of that. You can see the different folds in the stomach. Increases the surface area for nutrient absorption, but nothing in here.
Empty stomach.
Yep, just some of the gastric juices.
Here, Expedition New England. It is March 1st, 5:30 in the morning. We're aboard the Island Current 3, heading out off Block Island in search of our first encounter with the Atlantic cod. Check this out.
in August 2014, a regional fishery management council was rumored to have placed a moratorium on cod fishing throughout the Gulf of Maine. Fishery biologists have estimated that codfish are only breeding at 4% of the necessary level for them to maintain steady growth. Several environmental groups have just placed a petition with the National Marine Fisheries Service to suspend cod fishing in the Gulf of Maine. And this trip proves more evidence. These guys are spot on with their evaluation. I realize we're skipping around a bit, but I've got a lot of ground to cover. On the western side of the very beach where the necropsy is being performed is a population of harbor seals, basking in the sun, catching some rays, and warming up.
So these are worms of some kind that we've pulled out of the kidney. I'm not a real expert on what they could be, but that's why we're going to collect them. So this is kidney, and they have a highly reniculated kidney. So each one of these little balls kind of functions as its own kidney, and then they have a large collection of them. And when they've decomposed a little bit, you can see it kind of all falls apart. But what we're seeing in this mess is all sorts of these little, not really that little, worms. Never really seen anything like this, but I haven't done too many whale necropsies either. So Tom might have a better answer, but you can just see these are all over the place. Not really sure what they... Ooh, that's a good one. Not really sure what they are, but that's part of the process. Science. Fascinating. Love my job.
Beach whales have the larger, much larger tooth, a pair of teeth in the lower jaw than the females do, and they do it for social interactions with other males, and they have these scratch or rake marks all over their body where they're interacting with each other. This one had one broken off and worn right down smooth, so it's been broken off for a long time. And I think even though this animal wasn't as big as they can get, you know, this is 18 feet and they can get 23, I have a feeling this was a mature male, and so it had, you know, it'd been around for a while. But we'll see when we clean the skeleton if it was an older adult or younger. If it's a younger adult, the discs, the growth plates between the vertebra will not be glued to the vertebra itself. They won't be fused yet, and that doesn't happen until after they're reproductively mature.
We recovered the skeleton, and I think it's pretty much intact, and that's what we came for, and I think it's a job well done by everybody concerned.
Can you describe to me how you would clean the bones?
There's two basic ways we clean whale skeletons. One is to lay them on the surface of the ground and put horse manure over them. Horse manure is free, it's available, has wonderful bacterial colonies in it, or bacteria in it, and it decomposes the flesh on a skeleton beautifully. You can't bury it too deep because it'll get too hot and it'll cause damage, but farmers have done this forever. They put carcasses of cows and things and other livestock in horse manure or cow manure to get rid of them sometimes. Or just simply in warm weather, lay it on the surface, put tarp over it so the coyotes don't start taking the pieces away, and the flies will find it so fast, and it'll take 2 weeks, one life cycle of the fly. And it doesn't matter if it's a small carcass or an enormous carcass. The right number of flies will come, they'll lay the right number of eggs, and it will be clean in 2 weeks. Yeah, it went very nicely. You know, everybody's tired, and they should be. We worked hard. You know, it's a 2-ton animal, so it's about like taking apart young elephant, so it's a lot of work. We got a good skeleton, a few broken ribs, and a broken jaw, but I think that all came from just rolling around on the beach after it was dead. So we didn't see any evidence of why it died. And the stomach was empty, so it hadn't been feeding. But on the other hand, the fat layers were thick, so it hadn't starved to death. It hadn't been sick for a long time. So I don't know. I don't know why it died yet. It looked like a pretty nice animal.
Sure did.
Yeah. You know, it's decomposed a bit. Been dead for, a few weeks probably. But it'll be the first Cuvier's beaked whale skeleton in the New York State Museum. So it'll be there 100 years from now and more.
Skip ahead about 6 months and take a look at this. Dr. Tom French has completely reassembled this Cuvier's beaked whale, and it's ready for the museum.
That's a good size.
Yes.
Oh my God.
No doubt about it. I feel like I'm fighting a bluefish.
Oh.
But bigger.
Okay, I gotta hold
Just a few years ago, this boat would be a slop with fish at this point. Today, only a couple guys caught keepers. Everything else was beneath the 22-inch regulation.
Come on. Oh, keep on going.
I wish this was like 20.
The Atlantic cod fishery has been decimated.
Oh.
Come on.
Take a drag. Come on, man.
That's it.
Keep it going. You got another 10 minutes to go.
Come on, buddy.
Party boats, individual anglers, just regular people like you and I that go fishing, do not pose a major threat to these species. It's the factory fishing, the trawlers, that are stripping the oceans. We've got to stand up. We've got to make our voices heard. Expedition New England. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.